Okay, this is part 3 of the soul. For me, I've used concepts like personality and character for a number of years now, and I want to talk about the definition of those as distinct from soul. So personality refers to your traits. For example, are you conscientious? Are you kind? Are you warm? Are you funny? Are you smart? Whereas for me, character has to do with the ethical dimension of life. We say he's a person of good character or a bad character. And usually with good character we use words like he's reliable, he's kind, he's compassionate, he's fair, those kinds of things. So I don't see these as necessarily separate concepts, soul, character, and personality. I feel like they blend into each other to some extent. But soul has this idea of depth and intimacy and coziness, tenderness, softness, but it can also have edge. So for me, there's a kind of, we could speak of it as a universality of soul. That means that all human beings, or almost all human beings, have a tendency to want to give love and to receive love. So we could speak of that as a soul drive or soul desire. It's a deep need for the person. There are also biological needs that we can connect with part of the soul, because the soul does have a practical side. So our need for food, our need for water, for example. In addition to this need for love, I believe that the soul feels that fairness is really important. We have a sense of what's just and what's unjust. That's part of the soul. And the third part of the soul, again, these are not three separate parts, but they are related. Love is related to justice. And the third part is what I would call truth, truthfulness, honesty, clarity, frankness. So love, justice, and truth, if we see these, now this is me, this is not Thomas More, if we see these as key elements of the soul, we can start to think about how we can let those aspects express themselves in our daily life, how we can have integrity. So integrity is often related to character, but you can see that it's a word that's related to integration and wholeness. And so we can imagine how the individual might try to express love, fairness, and truthfulness as fully as they can, and then how we could try and build a society that was conscious of these values. That might sound very abstract and pie in the sky, but Moore is concrete, and he believes that the soul is concerned with particulars, concrete things. So he has a chapter on money, for example, economics. He has another chapter on illness. He has another chapter on family. He doesn't have a utopian vision, at least not as far as I am in the book. It's not a integrated or fully expressed utopian vision, and I wouldn't say that I necessarily do either. But I do think it's important to, when we were in an ethical dilemma, to see things from the perspective of the soul. What does the soul want in this situation? We sometimes refer to this when we talk about actions as character building, or something that leads to growth, but is not easy. It might be difficult. So the soul would be involved in a situation like that. So when we have a dilemma, we could think, what does the soul need? Moore also refers to the soul of situations. He doesn't use situations specifically, but he refers to other entities like the soul of a city, the soul of a country. I'm still wrapping my head around what those things mean, because it can get abstract quickly. But in a situation where there are, let's say, several people involved and you're one of the decision makers, one thing you could consider is what does the soul want? What does my soul want in this situation? How can I express love or justice or truth? So that for me is a very useful perspective. Also, with respect to family, Moore says it's really important to tell stories about our family members, because when we tell stories about them, it's harder to demonize them, in the sense that we may feel wronged by a particular family member. But when we understand the history of that person and we tell stories about that person's life, then they don't become as demonic for us. They become a fully fleshed out human being. And it still might be hard for us to forgive them for what they did, but at least we're not developing this pent-up energy, this pent-up anger. We're telling stories that release our anger, and so we're releasing that anger in a more healthy way, or a more productive way, a more generative way, a more creative way, than pounding our fist on a table, for example, or yelling at the top of our voice. So I find Moore's book to be very practical and useful, but it gives me a lot to think about, and I really appreciate that. Food for thought. Thanks for watching.